All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jesse Hildebrand from Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who haven't joined us before, Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants is all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. I'm excited today because we get to do a bit of all three of those things. Before I introduce our speaker, we're going to go through each one of our 7 classes that's joining us from around Canada today. So first, we have Mrs. Slaney's grade 5 class from Calgary. No. We are very excited. We're so excited. We have Mrs. Furnival's grade 2 class from Guelph.
Grade 2s and 5s.
Grade 2s and 5s.
Grade 2s and
5s. Awesome. We have Mrs. Rasiga's grade 3 through 6 class at Smooth Rock Falls. What little they have in number, they make up in enthusiasm. We have Mrs. Teeson's grade 3 class from Surrey. Awesome. You'll have to demute your own mic, but we have Mr. Wigmore's grade 4 class from Brampton.
Go.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We have Mrs. Fraser's grade 2, 3s, and 5s from Orangeville. So many. All right. And last but not least, we have Mrs. Will 6 and 7s from Sarnia. Oh, guys. Outstanding. Okay. Oh, thank you so much for all that enthusiasm, guys. Of course, the reason you're all here today is for, for our speaker. We've got Leah Montsion, who's a biologist with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans in Canada. She studies marine mammals and uses photo analysis for Arctic species from the Beluga whale to the narwhal. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Leah. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much, Jesse. How is everyone doing? Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. I am overwhelmed with the excitement that you guys all have. So as you have heard, my name is Leah, and I'm a biologist here in Winnipeg at the Central and Arctic Division of Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this, and I'm just going to go right into my presentation.
Perfect, Leah.
Okay, thanks. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the work I do at Fisheries and Oceans, which is counting whales in aerial photographs, a method used to determine marine mammal population estimates. So just to give you a brief background about myself, I graduated from the University of Manitoba in December 2014 with a degree in biological sciences. Throughout my undergrad, I had the opportunity to work with a top research scientist here at DFO, where I conducted research on Arctic whales such as beluga, narwhal, and bowhead. After graduating university, I realized that I wanted to gain some hands-on field experience with marine mammals, so I applied for internships all across the world and was accepted to partake in one at Mote Marine Laboratory's Sarasota Dolphin Research Program in Florida. Therefore, in 2015, I moved to Florida for a few months, where I was able to learn hands-on skills in dolphin population assessments, such as photo ID work on a boat and in the office, quarantine tank rehabilitation, as well as necropsies. This means analyzing a deceased dolphin body. I moved back to Winnipeg late 2015, and I was offered a job at Fisheries to analyze aerial photographs starting in January, and I have been here ever since. Now, before we get started, I just want to offer you guys a little bit of advice. So when you guys grow up and are at the point of choosing a career, Make sure you choose a path that allows you to do what you guys wanted to do when you were a kid. Ever since I can remember, I had a passion for marine mammals. I don't know if it started because of the movie Free Willy, but I've always been fascinated with killer whales. I went my entire childhood stating I wanted to be a marine biologist and work with whales, and all it takes is a lot of hard work, and look where I am today. I love what I do, and I'm happy to go to work, and that's the most important thing. So please remember this and work hard towards doing what you want to do today. So diving in, I'll start off with some cool facts about beluga whales. As I'm sure most of you know, beluga whales are white. However, they are not always white. When they are babies, they are actually dark gray in color, as you can see in the bottom picture here. Belugas also have no dorsal fin. That's the fin on their back. Dorsal fins cause heat loss, which wouldn't be ideal in their cold Arctic climate. But dorsal fins are also a hindrance in the Arctic ice, and without one, the belugas are able to swim under the ice and escape predators. Compared to other whales, belugas are relatively small. They average between 9 and 15 feet. However, some males have been recorded as large as 20 feet. Females are smaller and generally about 80% the size of a male. Belugas are also covered with a thick layer of blubber that accounts for as much as 40% of their total body mass. The blubber can be up to 5 inches thick, and the purpose of the fat is to provide thermal protection and help store energy. Now, a unique fact about the beluga whale is that each summer they shed their outer layer of skin. They do this by concentrating in shallow water where there is coarse rock to rub against. The rubbing helps remove the outer layer of skin and reveal the new skin underneath. These photos are just an example of how they congregate in these shallow areas to molt. Beluga whales are also known for their round head with large forehead. This forehead is referred to as a melon, and the whales are actually able to change the shape of it and emit different sounds by blowing air around their sinuses. They are part of the toothed whale family and feed on many fish species, including salmon. Though they have teeth, they are only used for grabbing and holding prey. The beluga actually swallows their food whole. They are also big eaters and can eat about 50 to 60 pounds of food each day. Adult beluga whales can weigh anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 pounds. Now this is 2 to 4 times heavier than a grand piano. The neck of the beluga is also not fused, meaning they are able to nod and turn their head in all directions. It is very flexible. Beluga are not deep diving species, but they are able to hold their breath and travel underwater for up to 25 minutes. They are known as sea canaries, and as they are the most vocal of all whale species, they use a diverse language of clicks, whistles, and clangs. Belugas only have 2 natural predators, and that is the polar bear and killer whale. As you can see in these photos here, during ice entrapments, that is when the whales get stuck during sudden and unpredictable changes in ice cover, they are clawed by polar bears on land. Now the next photo I show is going to be a little gruesome, so if you don't want to see blood, please close your eyes. I'll just put it up quickly here. But this is just an example of what happens to the head of the belugas when the polar bears come on land and try to attack them. So moving on to the narwhal. Narwhal are closely related to the beluga whale. Their nickname is unicorn of the sea, as they have a large tusk growing from their head. The tusk is most commonly found on males and is actually an enlarged tooth with sensory capability and up to 10 million nerve endings. Some male narwhal have up to 2 tusks, while others have none. This tusk is spiraled and can grow up to 10 feet long. Similar to beluga whales, narwhal also change color as they age. Newborns are bluish gray, adults are mottled gray, and senior narwhal are almost totally white. Similar to beluga whales again, the females are smaller, and on average the species weighs between 2,000 and 4,000 pounds. Narwhal have blunter heads than the beluga, and also significantly smaller mouths. They also have no functional teeth for feeding. Narwhal, however, are well suited to deep sea diving as they have well-developed oxygen holding capacities in their blood and muscle tissues. They've been recorded diving to depths of at least 1,500 meters and are probably capable of going even deeper. Now, before I get started into the aerial survey portion of my presentation, I just want to show you a quick video. This video was taken by Nansen Weber in Cunningham Inlet last year. And if you listen close enough, you'll be able to hear the belugas vocalizing in the background. Did that work okay?
That was great, Leah. You're back in. Perfect.
Okay, so aerial surveys for population assessment. Oh, sorry. Watching that video gives us a great appreciation for the land we live on and also helps to give you an understanding of the amount of whales that congregate in that area. So I hope you enjoyed that. So aerial surveys for population assessments. Why do we conduct them? Well, the main reason is that the population estimates we receive from conducting aerial surveys helps us with conservation and management purposes of the species. These surveys help us acquire information and understand distribution as well as relative abundance, and when done every couple of years, also helps us monitor populations, evaluate conservation priorities, and aid in long-term assessment of population trends. As a result of climate change, the energy and mining interests and the opening of the Northwest Passage in the summer have led to growing vessel traffic, seismic exploration, and plans for future development in the Canadian high Arctic. Now, these issues highlight the need for a comprehensive assessment of whale populations, and our aerial surveys can assist researchers with this. Now, how do we do the surveys, you ask? The surveys are flown in a small plane like this one, which is called a twin otter. This plane is equipped with 4 bubble windows, as you can see in this photo, for easier viewing below, and an optical glass-covered camera hatch at the rear underbelly of the plane. Now, the camera is placed in this hatch and directed straight down. The plane flies at an altitude of 2,000 feet. Now, once the survey is completed and all the photographs have been compiled, they are then given to me for the photo analysis. Now, the first step once I receive the photos is to get a base map that portrays the area that the survey was taken. So for the 2016 Narwhal survey, which was just done this summer, the area surveyed was off of Baffin Island. Therefore, you can see here the base map I used was of the Northwest Territories. Now, the zoomed in area at the top right is the area where the survey was flown. Now, these waterways are part of the Arctic and include Eclipse Sound, Navy Board, Tremblay Sound, Milne Inlet, and Admiralty Inlet. For the 2015 Beluga survey, which was done last summer, this was conducted in the Western Hudson Bay region in the northeastern area of Manitoba. These 2 rivers are known as the Seal River and the Churchill River. Now, I'm hoping you have all heard about Churchill. But a cool fact about Churchill and the Hudson Bay is that the Hudson Bay coastline is home to the world's largest population of submarine beluga whales. Between mid-June to mid-September, more than 57,000 beluga whales gather in this region. These estuaries they gather in are warmer than the cold Arctic waters, therefore they use them to feed and calve, as there is a thermal advantage to their younglings. Now when I input the photos on the map, I then begin to scroll through each photo looking for whales. So the gist of what I do is when I see a whale, I select the specific age group from them on the categories on the right, click on the category, and then scroll over to the whale and click on them. So every time I click, this creates a point on top of the whale, which is georeferenced and assigned a coordinate value. I also have the points color coordinated to match the specific age category that the whale is. So this is just an example to show you how I differentiate the age group of the whales when analyzing the photos. So calves are defined as individuals found alongside an adult who measure equal or less than half the body size of an adult. Juveniles, on the other hand, are defined as individuals who measure from 2/3 up to almost the length of an adult. So as you can see in this photo here, we have one calf and one juvenile. Now here's an example of one of the survey areas for the Beluga survey last year, Churchill River, once I have added all the photos that contain whales to the base map. Now this photo has been rotated to the left, but you can kind of get an idea of how I input them onto the map. Now this is an example of the same survey area once all the individual whales have been marked and all of the photos removed. So this map helps show us the distribution of the whales. And as I mentioned earlier, each of these individual dots have an assigned coordinate value and represent an individual whale. So black pertains to adult, green pertains to juvenile, pink is calf, and red are unknown age. Now I'm going to get into some examples of the aerial photos that I analyzed myself. So this first photo is the photo I analyzed that had the highest amount of belugas of all the photos I've ever seen. Now, just think to yourself for a second how many whales you think could possibly be in this photo. But this photo actually has 2,600 whales in it. Now, on average, a photo like this can take anywhere from 7 to 10 hours for me to analyze. So one full workday on just one photo. And don't forget, I have thousands to go through. So this next photo is from the same survey. However, I've zoomed in significantly so you would be able to get a better look at the clumps of the whales and how sometimes it can be pretty difficult to determine ages. This one's just an example to show you how even when the water is very shallow and the portions of photo are taken up by land, belugas can still occupy the area. So this specific photo, even there's very little bit water in it, still has 900 beluga whales in it. This photo I wanted to show because it shows that my job is not always easy. Sometimes the water of the areas is very dirty and brown, which makes finding the whales quite difficult. Even in the zoomed in area there at the top, it is difficult to see, but there are 4 whales in there. But the watercolor inhibits our view if the whales are not breaching the surface. So you can see how one is really white, but the 3 beside of it are quite brown, and you can only really see that if you zoom in. So the key to analyzing this is to observe smaller portions of the photo at a time to ensure you're not missing anything. Now here's another tricky one. Looking at this photo, you would probably say that there are no whales in it. But actually there is one. If you look closely and hard enough, you can see there is one adult whale swimming alone in the glare area. Now, this takes a lot of patience and concentration to observe photos like this because you don't want to miss any whales. Now this last example here shows how some of the photos can be poor quality and have very low visibility of the whales. It probably looks almost black to you guys. Now the way to get around this is to play around in photo editing programs with the brightness and contrast. So here you can see I increased the brightness and decreased the contrast, and these image corrections help make it easier to view the whales underneath. So now I'm going to turn to you guys and give you a chance to make some population estimates for the beluga and narwhal. So can anyone take a quick guess at how many belugas are in this photo? Just if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to take Mrs. Slaney's class and Mrs. Furnival's class. So if you guys want to guess. Mrs. Slaney's class.
Okay. We seem to think it's 20-something. 23, 24.
21, 22. So Leah, 21 or 24. It's like an auction house.
Do we have a final answer? Sorry.
21 from one group and 24 from the other.
Okay, well the answer is 23. So there are 21 adults. I marked them here for you so you could see, and 1 juvenile and 1 calf. But those are really good guesses. Now I have another one here, and I believe I supplied you guys with this photo ahead of time to save time here. But does anybody else have now a guess for this one?
So I'm going to go to Mrs. Rasiga's class and Mrs. Thiessen's class. Mrs. Rasiga, do you guys have an estimate?
What do you want to say?
24. And then Mrs. Thiessen's class?
54. 23, please. I think we have to.
23. And then.
Was that the first picture that was sent to us?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is number 1.
So for the first one, we actually counted 24.
Okay. So the answer for this one is 28. Now again, I highlighted here which ones they are. So there are 25 adults, 1 calf, and 2 juvenile. But again, you guys were close. Now the next one I have here is the second photo that was sent to you guys, I believe. It's quite a bit harder than the other ones, but if we could go to another class and see how many they've come up with.
Yeah, so I can't unmute your mics, but Mr. Wigmore's class, we got a guess from you, and then Mrs. Fraser's class.
Friends, what do you think? Just yell.
55.
So we think 55.
55 from Mr. Wigmore's class. How many from Mrs. Fraser's class?
All right, what do you think? Yep. 50.
50?
Now you guys are a little low. There are actually 70 in this photo. Now I highlighted some to show you, but I don't know how big your screens are. So there's some in the bottom corner. There are some there. I think the hardest ones are probably in the glare that I just clicked. I'll go back and add that again. I don't know if you could see that, but there are some hidden in the glare. And then the last one there is kind of hiding. So there are 62 adults, 4 calves, 1 juvenile, and 3 unknown age in this photo. Now that's all I have for the belugas. I'm going to move on to the narwhal. And this is just an example to show you guys what narwhal can look like from an aerial survey. However, the photos I analyze are much more difficult than this. This is just from the internet, and I will show you in the upcoming slides how difficult the narwhal surveys can be.
Leah, really quickly, we do have a 7th class. In one of your future pictures, can I get them to do a guess as well?
For sure, yeah, there's 2 more photos left.
Perfect, okay.
So this is a photo of narwhals where I have zoomed in a bunch for ease of readability. But from where you guys are, can anyone give me a count for how many narwhal are in this photo?
So we're going to go to Mrs. LaFerra's class. I know you guys joined in a little late. They're grade 6 from Renfrew, Ontario. If you guys can demute your own microphone and then give us a guess, that would be wonderful. Oh. There you go, you got it.
We're not wait, right? Say how many you think there are. Say how many? 10?
Close.
11.
Is that the final guess?
No. 9. 11. 12.
So it's actually
12. It was 11.
Okay.
Going with 11.
11? Okay, you guys are too short. There's actually 13 here. Now, there are 10 adults and 3 unknown age, and you can kind of see that there are the 3 red dots there. Now, the reason I classify 3 of these narwhal as unknown age is because I cannot confirm that these ones are adults, but I can also not confirm that these ones are not juveniles or not calves. So they are close to an adult, so they could be calves, but they could also be adults that are not completely breaching the surface like the rest of the pod. Therefore, this is why I classify them as unknown age. But at the end of the day, we're just going for a final population estimate, so it doesn't really matter about that. Now I have a final photo here, and it portrays how difficult a narwhal survey can be to analyze. Now this photo is zoomed in and only about 1/6 of the original size of the photo, and the narwhal are still pretty difficult to spot. Now I supplied you guys with this photo prior. Do we have any, does everyone want to take a guess on this one, or?
How about everyone takes a guess and you guys write it in. So in the top left of your screen, there's a little blue chat bar. It says chat when you click it. And if you guys all write your answers, we can pass them on to Leah momentarily. Take your time, guys. No hurry. Good picture. Okay, we've got 7 from one class. 32. It's already different. 32 again. We've got 123. We've got 46. We've got 4. This is like the biggest range ever. I love it. 75. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're good. Almost. Maybe one more. Yep, that's it. That's all the classes. So tell us, Leah.
So you guys had great guesses, but you're a little high. The answer is actually 9. So what makes this photo so difficult is that there are a lot of white caps and waves in it. So you guys are probably confusing those waves around there as narwhal, but it takes some practice, and after some time you get a hang of it. But here I have highlighted the actual 9 whales that are in the photo, so you guys can see, but good guesses. And I just want to thank you again for having me today, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions you guys might have.
Outstanding. Okay, so before we get started with the question and answer period, I know that there are some classes watching from home. So if you guys want to submit questions yourself, we're doing that for the first time ever today, and you can use hashtag #exploringbytheseat. So if you guys get those questions into the Twitter feed, I'll ask Leah and myself in a minute. Before you do that, though, we'll start out with Mrs. Slaney's class if you guys have a question. Go right ahead.
Okay, how much pictures a day don't have whales?
How many pictures a day have whales in it?
Or don't have whales.
Don't have whales.
Don't have whales. Well, I would actually say that the majority of the photos I go through don't have whales, but it really depends on the area. So when I was doing the Beluga survey last year from Churchill, almost every photo actually had thousands of whales in it. So it was taking me a really long time to go through some. As I mentioned earlier, that one photo had 2,600 whales, which took a full day. But right now I'm actually doing a narwhal survey, and I would say that it's been probably about a week since I've even seen a narwhal. So it really just depends on which survey I'm doing, what area it is, and what the species is.
Excellent. All right, we'll go to Mrs. Lefebvre's class. If you guys want to demute your own mic, you can ask your question. Perfect.
How much fun do you think your job really is?
I love my job. I love studying whales, and I love helping to determine population estimates. And I might get to go to the Arctic this summer, so that's even better.
See, it's a great job. Good question. All right, we'll go to Mrs. Furnival's class. Go.
We're coming. Sorry.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. Come on down here. Elsa has a question for you.
Hi.
Hi, have you ever gotten up close to a narwhal or a whale?
Not a narwhal or whale.
Okay.
Actually, I was working in Florida, as I mentioned earlier, and I was able to work with a dolphin in a quarantine tank pool, and I was able to touch that dolphin and help rehabilitate it, but I haven't had a chance to be up close to a narwhal or a beluga yet. I'm hoping this summer I'll be sent in the Arctic and I'll get a chance.
Excellent. All right, Mrs. Rasiga's class, if you guys want to ask, go right ahead.
Shelby, please. How accurate is counting whales using photos?
Well, I would say it's pretty accurate. In the past, I have had to go over some of the photos that I have taken. So for example, again, a photo that has 2,000 photos, I'll count it on one day, and then a couple months later, I'll go back and recount that photo. And I've actually have really good recounts. My recounts are about 1% or less than 1% the same as before. So I would say that's pretty accurate in that sense. But in the sense of, I can only count the photos that are actually breaching the surface. So the research scientists, once I supply them with my information, they do some calculations to figure out how many of the whales are actually underneath the surface and come up with a final value for a population estimate. It's a pretty accurate way to do it, actually.
All right, we'll head to Mrs. Thiessen's class.
Okay, go ahead, Gavin.
Why do beluga whales, just whales, get lost when there's a loud sound next to them?
Sorry, what was the question?
Why do whales get lost when there's like a loud sound next to them? Why do they end up beaching themselves, getting,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if they get lost, but I know that with a lot of the sound that's been going on in the Arctic, especially right now with the opening of the Northwest Passage and more vessel traffic, it kind of inhibits their communication, and they aren't always able to communicate with other whales to figure out where they're going or where they are. So I would say that the noise just distracts them or inhibits their behavior, and there's actually a lot of research going on about that right now, as it's not completely conclusive because we haven't done a lot of studies about it since the climate change is relatively new, but it is distracting to them.
Good question. Mr. Wigmore's class, if you want to demute your own mic, go right ahead.
What do you think about
We read an article.
we read an article about killer whales going into Hudson's Bay. What do you think about it?
What do I think about it?
Like, what do you think? Like, do you have anything about what will happen? What will happen if they?
Well, sure, it's hard to know what's going to happen. The killer whales have always been a top predator in the Arctic, but now with the decreasing sea ice, they're going to start moving into areas that they haven't been before, which could be bad for the beluga and narwhal populations, but at the moment it seems to be okay.
Excellent.
So it's hard to predict what really could happen.
And then last but not least, Mrs. Fraser's class. If you want to demute your own mic, go right ahead, guys.
There we go. Okay. Big voice, really loud.
How much can a killer whale weigh when it's an adult?
A killer whale?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I can tell you about a beluga or a narwhal. I actually don't do any research on the killer whale as of yet.
So we'll have to come back to that one. We don't have any Twitter questions yet, but we have enough time. So I'm going to go back through all the classes. We'll start out with Mrs. Slaney's class.
How many beluga whales are there in the world?
That's a good question. Now, we don't have a definitive value, but as some of them are underneath the water, but I would say there's about, in the Arctic, I think it's a large range, but it's between 70,000 to 140,000. So there's a large gap there of how many there could be.
Excellent. To go back really quickly to Mrs. Fraser's class question, killer whales, according to National Geographic, can get up to 6 tons. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, they're quite
We'll go to Mrs. Lefebvre's class. If you guys want to demute your own mic, go right ahead.
Got it.
How accurate is the sensitivity of
How accurate is the sensitivity of a beluga whale? Senses.
Do you mean the senses when it uses communication echolocation?
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty accurate. I mean, that's their means of communicating and navigating, so it's very accurate. It's really quite impressive.
All right, we'll head to Mrs. Furnival's class.
Okay. Okay, nice and loud.
Are there less whales now than before?
That's a really big question. I don't know if I can comment on that. I would say the populations change year to year. So sometimes there are more than there were the previous survey. Sometimes there are less. It just depends on the migration, the climate, and what's going on with the weather right now. So that's a tough question, but it changes every year.
We'll have to do a hangout in a few years and find out.
Yeah, see how the populations are doing.
Excellent. We'll head to Mrs. Rasiga's class.
Star?
Are any of the Arctic whales in danger and why?
Yes, I would say they are in danger with climate change right now and what's going on. Again, as we mentioned earlier, the killer whales are starting to become more of a top predator and able to go to areas that they weren't able to go to before. And there are ice entrapments that are happening a little bit more frequently with polar bears being able to attack. So they're in danger in that sense. But I still think the populations are doing pretty well. And that's why we like to keep a handle on them and watch what's going on with our aerial surveys every couple of years.
Excellent. All right, we'll head back to Mrs. Thiessen's class.
Once you should be right close to you, nice and loud.
Do you have a favorite kind of whale?
Yes. My favorite whale is a killer whale. And that's what actually got me into wanting to do this.
Excellent. Back to Mr. Wigmore's class.
All right, Ethan.
What's the purpose of the narwhal's horn, and what is it made out of?
So it's actually a tooth, as I mentioned earlier, and they don't have a definitive purpose for it. It is known that it has up to 10 million nerve endings, and it's for sensory capabilities. There are a bunch of different possibilities as to what researchers have said. Some said it's for fighting, but I don't actually think it is. Some say it's to impress the females, as mostly male narwhal have them, but it is actually just a tooth.
A really big, scary tooth.
Yeah.
All right, and then last but not least, we'll go back to Mrs. Fraser's class, if you guys can demute your own mic.
Okay, big voice, Zach.
What do narwhals do with their tusks?
I think that was just the same question I answered. It's mostly just for sensory capability, I would say.
Has there ever been any footage of them fighting or using them for anything with ice or anything like that, Leah?
Not that I know of. There might be. If you look at some of the photos from online, there are some of them crossing their tusks, but I wouldn't say they're fighting with them.
So it's a call to do some further research for all the classes.
There is tons of research going on about that right now.
Excellent. So that brings us to the end of the Hangout, guys. What we do now is I'm going to turn it over to every one of the classes to say a big thank you to Leah. So I'm going to demute all your microphones, and if you guys want to say thanks right ahead. We've got kids that are as high-pitched as Beluga whales. This is great. Leah, thanks so much for being with us here today. And we hope to have all you classes exploring by the seat of your pants again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Awesome. Have a lovely rest.